I'm ready.
All right. Hello. Thank you and welcome to the EDS Empower Hour. I'm really excited today to have a good friend in the EDS community that I've gotten to know over the years. We run into each other at conferences and share stories. And with it being EDS Awareness Month, um, there's so much activity of people talking about hypermobile EDS and hypermobility. And my good friend, guest here today, Krista Brock, said, I'm so tired of hearing about just hypermobility. I know it's the most common type, but what about these other rare types? And she's one who has classical EDS. And so we thought this is a perfect opportunity for a little educational awareness and empowerment to be able to share her story of, resilience and what she's done in terms of advocacy. So I'm really honored to have, Krista here with us today. She is a fierce and very compassionate voice in the rare disease community who lives, like I said, with CEDS. And her journey she's going to share with us is, years of misdiagnosis and medical challenges and this powerful shift into paying it forward. We've done things together, advocating on the Hill through the Bobby Jones CSF organization, and she's always pushing for better policy, research, and patient care. And she's going to be able to share with us, particularly the challenges of the last year or so that she's had with just like ongoing hospitalizations and surgical complications. And she is a fantastic champion for, the use of mobility aids and, the just using the tools in a toolbox to be able to make this life as bearable, manageable, and brilliantly bright as possible. So welcome, Krista. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm so glad you're not in the hospital today and you're
Thank
able
you.
to join us despite the storm that's coming through and causing some pain and neurological symptoms. So do the best you can with us, and we look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you. So I mean, my story is really long, like a lot of us. I went through a lot of different diagnoses before I got to the EDS. And it started out, my mom said that I was born with headaches, that I would hold my head and scream as an infant. And I was diagnosed with migraines as a child, but none of the treatments were ever really helpful. Um, as I got older, they started once I hit puberty, I just, like a lot of us, my body completely fell
Fell
apart.
apart. Yeah, just fell apart.
And I mean, I was spraining something every other week. And it was usually like the language involved in it was, what did you do to yourself? How did you manage this? And it kind of set the tone really for me, to just take responsibility over these injuries and um, kind of blame myself for them. Like I wasn't paying enough attention. I had to, try harder or do better. And my mom would take me to the doctor. I would say, my back hurt and my leg hurt as even as young as a toddler. Um, and my mom would take me to the doctor, and the doctor would tell her that I was just, I was a girl. I was being dramatic. Girls cry a lot. And that, I really just wanted her attention, things like that. So by the time I was a teenager, they were giving me psychiatric diagnosis. I don't even know the term. They basically were saying that I was somehow causing myself to feel this pain. That my mind was so powerful, I was causing myself to be in pain. I'm not sure how that worked out, but that I was also diagnosed with having bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder, which was really difficult. many doctors wouldn't want to treat me just solely based because I had that diagnosis. And that put up a lot of barriers to me for when, I mean, like it ended up I didn't have these psychiatric illnesses, but even if I had, you can have physical illness and psychiatric illness. But
Yeah.
no one wanted to address that with me. And I mean, as a child, you really don't have much autonomy over yourself. But when you have psychiatric illness tagged along with you, you just have no autonomy. I had no, I couldn't say no. The doctors were always allowed to do whatever they wanted to me, and it was very difficult to experience. As I got older, my headaches got worse. I don't know how I made it through high school, but I did. I was able to work for a few years, which was really beneficial because that allowed me to apply for SSDI eventually when I could no longer work. But I thought I was mentally ill. They had convinced me I was taking the medications that they gave me. And I mean, they would go through so many different medications because none of these treatments and medications for these illnesses was working or doing anything to help me. So um, eventually, I was in a car accident and I hit my head. And I had hit my head in the past, but this was different. I started having a lot more symptoms. I started dropping things from my hands. I would lose the feeling in my legs completely and collapse to the floor. I was having like this really horrifying burning pain in my feet, all these symptoms. So because of that, they ended up doing an MRI. And I don't know why it took so long for someone to do an MRI for me. But once that happened, my entire life, it was like I have a life of before and a life of after. Um, and it went from you're doing this to yourself somehow to you need to have brain surgery right away. Um, and I didn't even really have time to think about it because they said that my brainstem was affected and I was cutting off my oxygen while I was sleeping. And I really didn't. I think it's a good thing I didn't have time to think about it. So I didn't have time to kind of like stress about it. I didn't have a choice. It was all taken out of my hands. So I had that surgery done. Subsequent to that, I had right before my Chiari diagnosis, or as I was diagnosed with Chiari, I was sent to a pain specialist, and that happened to be Dr. Chopra here in Rhode Island. Now this was in 2006, so this was like oh, 20 years ago. But he was absolutely amazing. He helped me feel seen for the first time. He's the one that helped me find the neurologist that did the Chiari decompression for me. I mean, he saved my life 100%. And I still see him to this day. Um, but anyway, I after having that PRI decompression surgery, the neurosurgeon suspected I had tethered cord syndrome, but he didn't tell that to me. I found out when I got my medical records um that was what he was thinking, but he wasn't an expert in that. So he wanted to send me to someone who was. So I ended up at the Chiari Institute in New York, which is where I met Dr. Bolognese and became one of his patients. He confirmed that I had tether cord syndrome. We had the that surgery, um, and at the this so within 2 years I had the Chiari malformation surgery, the tether cord surgery, and then I went in for my post-op appointment or whatever. And I was expecting like we had a lot of complications throughout the surgery. I had so many wound healing issues. I had to get stitched twice.
Mm.
And so when I went into that appointment, I didn't realize it, but he told me that in his opinion I had this genetic condition called classic Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and that sewing me back together was like trying to sew wet tissue paper. So he recommended I see a geneticist, and he also recommended that I see a neuropsychiatrist to go through my past history and see if I really did have these psychiatric conditions that were in my record. Because at that the point in time, I still thought I had bipolar disorder. I never thought I had the other one, the borderline personality disorder, but I did think I was bipolar. So um, I went to that doctor. He let me know that I wasn't, but that I was dealing with a lot of trauma from the misdiagnosis, the mistreatment, and that I basically had to change the way I was thinking because these I didn't have those issues, but I do have a lot of post-traumatic stress. I have situational depression, and I have a lot of time like body image issues. So I mean those are all things that I am still working on. But this all happened in a very short period of time, and I also was recommended to see physical therapy, but I couldn't find the type of physical therapist that they wanted me to see. And then I got involved with advocacy. I started sharing my story, and that made me feel really a lot better about myself. It gave me our society is so based off of production and how much you can benefit others, and so being able to help others and share those experiences was really good. It was a boost for my self-esteem that I really needed at that time. And shortly after that, I started the Rhode Island Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and related connective tissue disorders support group. And we've been meeting for, all these years. One of the things I'm most proud of is that this last year when I almost died. I was in ICU for a long period of time. The support group went on without me. And I mean, that is like, it's just like the best feeling to know that over the years I had found this wonderful amazing group of people that could work together and create this amazing environment, and that even without my presence, my anything, it's still there were still meetings happening, and help was out there for people. The Facebook group still continued. Like, it was such a wonderful thing for me
Yeah,
to
you built that.
experience.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
built that.
But also I built it so that it could survive me, so when I'm no longer here, if I'm no longer able to do it, I mean, my last few years has been really hard. But I've like kept pushing myself to keep doing all these things, and I'm not able to do that now. But it just makes me so proud to know that it's still, they're still happening. I'm still involved. I still help out. I'm gonna do an event in June for the Complicated movie. We're gonna have a showing, and I'm gonna be running that event. That'll be my first thing that I've done in a while, because like as you know, my last my last couple of years actually have been pretty difficult.
Yeah, are you comfortable sharing a little bit about like what's gone on in the past couple of years? I mean, I know you've had, like emergency situations, long-term hospitalizations, like, and all the complications from hell, and you're surviving, you're thriving. I watched a beautiful video of you in physical therapy yesterday as you're, taking steps, and brings me to tears. So, whatever you're comfortable sharing. And
Sure. My life has been one chaotic event after the other. It and I mean, we only have so much time. So, yeah, so I started the support group in 2013. I started doing events. I really got into advocacy, traveling to DC. It was really invigorating to get to speak to my representatives. And even when I was like I would go whether I was having symptoms or not. I would go when I had a cluster headache, one year. And, I used what I was feeling to show them what I was dealing with so that, they weren't just hearing it, but they could actually see what condition I was in. There are times when so along with classic Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, like I said, I have Chiari malformation. I've had the tethered cord surgery done 3 times so far. Yeah, and the last time it was done as an emergency because I lost all feeling below the waist. And I still have some difficulty walking. One of my legs just isn't really up to snuff, but like you said, you saw in that video, we're working on that. Um, and um, so I tore the ligaments in both my ankles, all the lateral ligaments in my left ankle the first time, and after I had surgery, which involved using cadaver tendon in place of my completely demolished ligaments. They rebuilt the left, and in the time when I was rehabbing the left, I did the exact same thing to the right. And again, there's no story to it. Like a lot of people wonder why I continue to travel and put myself in like, risky situations when I'm so easy to injure. And it's because I'm so easy to injure. If I can get injured in my house, like just literally walking, then I may as well go to a Star Trek convention out of state, and get injured there. Um, at least I have a story to go along with it. So, so while at that I got my ankles repaired is when I had my second tethered cord situation happen. So in between the ankle reconstructions, I had my second tethered cord surgery. Um, right after that, and I'm talking like 6 months later, my house burned down. We lost just about everything, including one of our pets. We ended up having to be put in a rental that was not accessible, and I was just learning how to walk again. So I had been using a wheelchair for the most part at that time when we were put into this rental that was not accessible from a wheelchair. I could get around mostly, but I couldn't take a shower. So we would have to like get a hotel room for me to be able to take a shower. It was and it really opened my eyes in the fact that there's absolutely no accessible housing whatsoever. So when my house had to be rebuilt because it burned down, we rebuilt it so that my entire house now is accessible from a wheelchair, including the bathroom, my kitchen. I have a lovely sink that is at wheelchair height. It's wonderful. I can, cook in there and do good things, which is great. But while we're dealing with all this and we're living in this rental, and we don't have any of our belongings, I start having some really odd behavioral issues. I don't really know how to say. My psych issues came back. I was arguing with my husband over nonsense. I became very irrational at times. And so we had me seen back in New York with Dr. Bolognese. He set me up for intracranial pressure monitoring, and it ended up that my intracranial pressure was like really, really high, like off the charts high. So before I could even leave the hospital, they put a shunt in. And that started me in 3 years. I had 6 shunt related surgeries because I kept getting infections in my shunts. And it would just be like, how does this even happen to a person? I had the first was I had diverticulitis, which also caused a problem with my bowel, which would come back later to get me. So I had diverticulitis right after I had my first shunt surgery. And I damaged a part of my bowel. The surgeon at the time recommended that I have that part of my bowel removed so it wasn't going to cause problems later on. But at the time it was 2020 and everything kind of shut down. So nothing really got done. My shunt ended up failing. Another time, a cyst on my scalp got infected. It grew so much that it actually pinched off my shunt and broke the shunt at the site. I don't I mean, and this is like, how do these things happen to a person? Um,
Yeah,
and
like you can't make this up, right?
yeah,
I mean,
and while I'm so now it's 2023. I've had 6 shunt surgeries. I'm relearning how to walk as my balance is completely off. So I'm in physical therapy and I'm walking from one room to the next when I completely lose all feeling in my legs. And my physical therapist is amazing. She managed to like kind of catch me with her body so I didn't go into the floor. And I end up having emergency tethered cord surgery for the 3rd time. Um, Before I can even like process that in any way, I start having these really concerning stomach issues. And I'd already been diagnosed with gastroparesis and MALS, and I had the diverticulitis years in the past. And it kept feeling like I was having a bowel obstruction, but anytime they did imaging, there was, nothing was coming up on the imaging. And so this is going on for months. And during that time, like I'm also traveling around the world. I'm going to Renaissance fairs. I went to the Star Trek convention in Vegas. I didn't stop my life because it wasn't going well. I just kind of kept living through it. And In August, I had a brain surgery that I haven't even really gotten to talk about it, and it was basically a miracle for me. I've had headaches like for in my entire life, always, even after decompression, even when I had a shunt. Like I mean, I always had the shunt issues. Um, so I had some testing done, and it showed that the jugular vein was completely blocked off. It was like completely compressed. There was no blood flow getting through on it. And the theory was if they could release that, it would improve my intracranial hypertension. So they went in back through my neck, just like they did for the Chiari decompression surgery. They went in like through the same muscles, and they shaved down my C1 so that it was no longer putting pressure on the jugular vein. And I had like just instant improvement. I no longer need glasses that I've been wearing my entire life. I didn't even realize that my vision was being impacted by what was going on with the pressure in my head. I thought that was wild. So I went from wearing bifocals to I don't wear glass. I mean, I would need them for far away if I really wanted to see, at a distance, but otherwise, I don't need them at all. And my headaches have completely changed. I can do this conversation through a rainstorm, and it's not, I'm not, like lying down on the floor, unable to move, with my head pounding. It's just been amazing. And so right after that brain surgery is when I had the big emergency. My bowels exploded. There was some kind of an obstruction that had been building up over time, and eventually it caused so much pressure to build up that my bowels exploded. I I very nearly died. I was in the ICU for over 3 weeks, and the first um the first couple of weeks I couldn't actually move my own body. They had cut me from basically, you know, I don't know if you can see me, but
Man,
they had cut me wide open. They cut through all of my muscles. I literally could not move my own body. There was a person that was sitting outside my hospital door 24/7 that was just there to help me adjust my body, and that went on for a couple of weeks before I was able to recover enough to start manage a little bit on my own, and then they were able to get me to a step down place, and eventually I got released from the hospital. And as I do, I continue living my life. It's questionable on whether I should do some of the things that I do. I decided to keep with my husband and I's plans. We love Star Trek conventions. We've been to them in 3 different countries, in 3 different states. I wanted to keep our plans to go to the New Jersey Star Trek convention. So I went. And the second day that we were there, I went to take a nap and I woke up in intensive care. I had gone into septic shock. Um, I had just, it, I went to take a nap and I told my husband, enjoy yourself, come wake me up later. He came and woke me up sooner than I had requested because something was going on and he thought I'd love it. So, he'd come to wake me up, but then he couldn't wake me. He became really concerned. When he finally did wake me, he said I was behaving oddly. I don't remember it. I can't say. I wish these are the times like I wish someone was recording because it feels like everybody else knows something that happened in my life and I don't. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. So I have to rely on what they tell me. And he called 911. The paramedics that came. And I remember like I had like these vague little flashes, and I remember telling them all that I was fine. I was fine. I just needed to sleep. Just just let me sleep. And my vitals were really bad. They took me right into the hospital, and I went into septic shock. I spent another week in an intensive care unit, this time in New Jersey. I'm touring the area for intensive care units. I've also spent time in New York's intensive care. And of the hospitals, New Jersey was really nice. I love my treatment in New York. My own local hospital scares me, basically based off of this last year. So they let me out of the hospital without confirming that my infection was cleared. They refused to do a CAT scan. And, they just told me, you're fine, go be, live your life. And I went into septic shock. And after that, I got like New Jersey got me healthy enough to get me to go home, where I was readmitted to Rhode Island Hospital. And then they released me again, and I had asked them at that time again for a CAT scan, or for IV antibiotics. And I kept trying to tell them, like, my body is different. It doesn't work the way you're expecting it to work. I'm not going to clear this infection without a long time IV antibiotic. And why would someone want to be on IV antibiotics if they didn't need to be on? Like, I just don't understand what they thought why I would want this if I didn't actually need it. And again, they released me, and at that point it was Thanksgiving. So literally it was Thanksgiving Day. So I said, whatever, let me out. And then a couple weeks later, I'm back in the hospital with the same infection. And I had plans to go to France. So and I let them know, I'm going to France, and this time we're going to do it right. You're going to release me with IV antibiotics, and this is how we're going to, go moving forward. And that's what happened. Everyone like kind of at that point, everyone did finally. They were like, you're different, aren't you? So they got together and they helped me get well enough where I could keep my plans to meet up with my husband's family in France for Christmas. We cut our trip a little bit short because I was very ill. I was so weak, and I was very, I mean, I really wasn't caring for myself very well, and I was on TPN. I couldn't eat anything at all by mouth. I have a colostomy bag now. Those are things that happen when, your bowels explode. And especially because of my healing issues and how long it takes for me to heal. Um, it has taken a very long time for that uh incision to heal. Um, and it's going to take longer for my bowels to heal. I just saw my surgeon yesterday, and we talked about how I'm because I hopefully going to have the colostomy reversed at some point. But right now my bowels is still healing. It still needs time. It only the have fistula that happened. It's just so much. So I had these fistulas develop, which is a complication of the surgery. And it like basically an infection was coming out of the area still. And that only closed up 2 weeks ago. So uh, the surgeon said that I'm looking at probably another 3 months before they can go back in and reverse the surgery. And I'm in no rush because so the last time, after France, I come home and I'm having a lot of stomach pain again. And I called my surgeon up and I told him, something's wrong, something's going on. And the hole of my ostomy was closing up. It was shrinking. So it started at one size and now it was really small. It was really concerning. So he had me come back into the hospital. I had another bowel obstruction, this time in my small bowel. And the ostomy was completely closed up. They had to revise the ostomy. They had to, I mean, I don't even, and like I talked to other people, this doesn't happen to them. Like, their ostomy didn't just magically close up on its own. I have no idea how to explain it, and nobody can explain it to me, and nobody does any research on classic EDS. So, we have all these like really weird complications that we can't correlate into any kind of data because nobody's looking for it. But anyway, I in that surgery, when they went in, they revised my ostomy, they removed part of my small bowel, and then they closed me up. And then in recovery, my stats are dropping again. I am dying again. They don't know why. They get my consent to go back in for exploratory surgery and find that they had nicked my bowel doing while they were doing the surgery and they didn't realize it. So and they sewed me up and it's just like a what happens next kind of thing. But you can't live in the what's going to happen next. So like what do I do? Why to not absolutely lose my mind while all of this is going on is do things like advocacy. Like, I'm looking forward to the trip at the end of June when we're going to go back to Washington, D.C. And after that, I'm going to go camping. My husband and I go camping. I believe it's called glamping. What we do technically is glamping. We'll be staying in a cabin that has air conditioning. So that's where we'll be for 4th of July. It's also a cannabis-friendly campground in Harrison, Maine. It's called Camp Laughing Grass, if you don't mind me
Yeah, yeah.
giving that shout out. It's one of my favorite places to go to because I can just relax and not think about my next doctor's appointment, not think about the next surgery, not think about, what the next emergency is going to be. I just try and live my life through it because if I wait to get better, I'm just going to spend my life waiting.
I'm so I mean, I already knew you, but hearing all this, I'm just continue to be so incredibly blown away by your spirit. And frankly, it's a miracle that you're here. I mean,
Yes.
bless
Yeah.
all the powers that be, whatever you believe in, that you're here and, so grateful. Um, but your spirit and your ability to not allow this to be like your entire identity and your entire like future forecasting and fearing, you're like, this is going to happen. This is part of what it is. And I'm going to keep on living. You know, a lot of people, whether it's classic EDS or, whatever chronic illness they have, it's so easy to get caught up in the like chronic thinking, of just like, woe is me, and this is terrible, and I can't, and I don't, and I won't. And that, it's it's a true testament to your resilience and tenacity to just keep on keeping on one day at a time. I mean, it's a brilliant beauty because there's the spirit of like, the fear of missing out. And then the people that are like, you only live once, so I'm just gonna like YOLO. And it's really hard to get people to that point of, whatever you want to call it. Like, it sounds cheesy to call it like acceptance, but when we're
It's yeah, it's hard to get there. And I think, there's a lot to be said that I am very privileged. And in many ways, I'm privileged to be able to do this. I was able to have enough work credits to get Social Security disability insurance, which is better than having SSI. Neither one of them is you're able to live on. Neither one of them is sufficient to support a person to, their housing or their food, never mind medical treatments and
yeah,
mobility aids that aren't covered by any kind of medical insurance. And furthermore, that one of these things that just, blows able people's minds is that um, mobility aids, the insurance company will not pay for them if you're going to be using them outside your house. So my house is relatively small. It's very small. And like I said, it's all accessible for me. I get around just fine with my walker inside. But in order for me to engage in life, I need a motorized wheelchair. I can't spend all of my time worried about tripping over my feet. And if I'm spending all the time thinking about walking, and keeping my body upright and not falling on my face, I'm not able to enjoy my surroundings or make a friend because I can't have a conversation while I'm trying to walk. I mean, it's just like people don't understand how useful wheelchairs are in those kind of moments and how without it, you can't even attend the event.
yeah.
So
I feel like able-bodied people like see whether it's a, walker, wheelchair, whatever it is, mobility aid, they see it as like crutches, right? And it's like you're giving me the ability to go and you know live and do with greater ease.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
but
mean, so
I so I have I'm married. I have an amazing husband. We are
yes, you do.
celebrating.
Yay for amazing husbands.
They're very, very hard to find. So we're celebrating our 21st wedding anniversary in 8 days. Um,
Congratulations.
thank you very much. And he contributes so much to my ability to do the things that I do. And his work contributes so much to that as well. I have his insurance through his work. And I also have like a flex benefits card, and that's how I get my mobility aids because they're not covered by insurance because I'm only using wheelchairs outside. Usually, I only use a wheelchair outside my home. And so insurance won't pay for it. So for a lot of people, that makes them a prisoner of their own home. But I'm privileged in that we can get these mobility aids. And my first one I got secondhand, so I recommend that for anyone who is, looking for who's in that same situation. Um, I uh, I went to a secondhand wheelchair shop and they got me sorted out really well. So
So as you're getting ready in these kind of crazy health policy times, and we're gonna see each other in DC, and go march up on Capitol Hill. Um, what are your asks? I mean, how do you advocate? I mean, you and I both know that, you can go and tell your patient story and you might leave an impact, but you also have to say, Mr. Legislator or staff person, this is what I'm hoping you will do as a result. I have a rare disease, like join the rare disease caucus. Like,
Mhm.
what is your what issues do you want these lawmakers and decision makers to better understand or advocate, or take action on?
So a lot of the issues that I would like to advocate for, I mean, they're not even on the table. We need physical therapy all the time, and not just like 10 visits until our next injury. We need physical therapy for our care plan.
Like
Um,
maintenance, physical therapy
yeah.
for life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been told that that is like a state issue that I need to advocate at home. And I mean it's really hard when all the of the that is put on the patient
Mhm.
to do the advocating. And I mean I think that like that is my biggest thing, but pain management is another area that I have a real hard time with. Like everyone, I have a lot of pain because of all these things that we were just talking about and a million others. And I'm doing everything I can to manage that pain outside of opiates. I'm going to physical therapy. As far as we can say, I'm eating a healthy diet because I'm on TPN. So, that's we're doing what we can there. They check my nutrition levels. We know that my vitamins are in line. Um, so, I'm doing as much as I can to I'm sorry, completely lost my train
No,
of
it's okay.
thought.
You were talking about advocating for pain management, and I'm going to guess,
So, right,
medical cannabis and the
and
ability to use that legally, safely regulated.
so I'm managing my pain at home really well on what I'm doing. When I get in the hospital, suddenly I can't have cannabis. I can't have one of the main components of my pain relief. Um and that's really hard to have to go through when there's something that could be helping you, but you just can't access it because you happen to be in the hospital because you're in more pain. I mean, you're in more need of something and you're less able to have it. And I'm one of the people like I said, I have gastroparesis. Edibles don't work well for me. I usually use inhalation. It helps better with my headaches. I have a vaporizer, although I do also smoke it. Don't tell my pulmonologist, please. Um, but and so let me quickly tell a little story. I've advocated with different groups. I've gone to DC with different groups, and my first time going with the rare disease legislative advocates for Rare Disease Week, I brought my cannabis with me. My cannabis from Rhode Island that it was in marked packages that said this is medical marijuana. It has THC, la 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 on it in my purse. Nobody told me when I was going through the Capitol building that they were going to search my purse. And so we're waiting to go through the security line. I'm in my wheelchair. My husband's with me. They have my purse. It's gone through, the metal detectors, and now they're searching it and they're looking over at me. And more Capitol Police start coming around, and I notice I've been surrounded. And I say, "Is this about my medication?" And they said, "Yes, actually, this is about your medication." And they pulled me aside. And I literally, so I'm in my wheelchair and I'm literally surrounded by the Capitol Police. And they asked me, what I'm doing, bringing cannabis into the Capitol building. And I explained to them that I was there advocating. And while this is going on, there's other people, the other advocates that I'm traveling with, that I'm advocating with, are standing around watching this happening. And I'm like, no, no, go on without me. I'll catch up. because I knew this was going to, be a while and I might not be catching up to them. So, I explained to these lovely officers, and they were all very, very nice to me, that that was my medication, and I was reliant on it, and I had to keep it with me because I needed it while I was in DC. And they explained to me that it was not okay to have cannabis on federal grounds, and that they were going to have to confiscate it. And I burst into tears. And I mean, I was honestly like, and it wasn't a setup or anything. I was honestly just so emotional and devastated, and like I didn't know what I was going to do. How was I going to stay the other couple of days I'm here without that? And I just begged them. I said, please, you please understand, this is the only medication that I have with me. If you take it from me, I will be in unbearable pain. You will leave me in unbearable pain. Please, please understand. And um at that point, I was just with one. I was with the, I guess, the head guy of the Capitol Police. And he said, okay, ma'am, I am going to walk you to the edge of federal property where I will hand you your medication, and you will take that medication and you will go to your hotel, and you will not go back on federal property with this again. And I thanked him, and I did what he said. I caught up to my advocates later on. I was able to rejoin the group, but I mean, and that was like just me advocating for myself, and being able to say, but that's like what we do, right? This is why it's helping me. You need to understand, please. And they saw the compassion of that, and they allowed me to leave with it. And I learned my lesson. I have not gone back on federal property with cannabis again, in my later trips to DC.
Yeah, it's a great note to, as we're all getting ready to go back to DC, like, leave that stuff at your hotel, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
as you're preparing for, travel and telling your story to lawmakers again, um, you have done an amazing job in your life and the people that you've empowered in your support group that are like, you've built this thing and they're running on without you. And it's so powerful. If you had a single sort of lesson to share, look at this entire story that you've done, and it's misdiagnosed and dismissed and mistreated and not listened to and all of this stuff, and you just continue to be, you know, powering on. Like, how are you doing that? What is the lesson that you could share with others?
So it's not just one thing. It's a lot of different things. For one, it's my shirt that I'm wearing now.
What
You
does it
can't really
say?
see it.
EDS pro tip, never do
Ne
anything you wouldn't, let me see the rest. You
never
wouldn't
do
want to. Good.
never do anything you wouldn't want to explain to your physical therapist.
That's awesome.
I've been in physical therapy for the last 15 years. I go to Bay State Physical Therapy, formerly Healy Physical Therapy. I see Trish Megan. She's an absolute superstar. I started there seeing Dr. Mike Healy. He's amazing as well. They have like trained staff that um, is prepared to do physical therapy with someone with a fragile body, with connective tissue disorders. They taught me how to build. So, building onto what I had, no matter how sick I am, no matter what's going on, there's something I can be doing. Again, not while I was in ICU that one time, okay, but
Resting and breathing was all you could do for that
But
moment.
other than that, I could, you can do pelvic neutral. You can try and like tighten your stomach muscles. At a certain point, like if all I could do was it's called a sit to stand, which is just basically standing up. If that's the only thing I could do, then I would just do that 10 times or 20 times. Like getting the physical therapy that I could do with the body that I was in, and being able to work on that from there. From the core strength to strengthening my shoulders so that my ribs don't come out so much. And that in turn helped with a lot of the fight or flight response anxiety, like a lot of that was, my ribs being unstable. So getting that sorted out, getting pain control of any, however you're managing it, whether that's with opiates or cannabis or meditation or, however you're finding, um, a way to lessen the pain. And for me, distraction is a great way that I use for pain management. When I'm in the hospital after a surgery, I'm already taking strong opiates. So when I have these surgeries, it's really difficult for me to find some kind of like pain management while in the hospital, especially without the cannabis, like we discussed. So, ways that I get through it are, I load up on things that I can distract myself with, like, there's adult coloring books. My husband got me a laptop that I can play some computer games on. I play The Sims and Civilization, which are both games that I can play for hours, trapped in a hospital bed. And not staying in the hospital bed. When you're having these surgeries done, I know it hurts. I know it feels awful, but the sooner you can get up and get out of the bed, the better off you are. And it's going to hurt. Brain surgery hurts, spinal cord surgeries hurt. Expect that going into it, and know that just accept that that's going to be a part of your day, and stop fighting it. So, because like you're wasting so much energy on the fight. If I cry, I'm gonna give myself a migraine. I'm gonna waste all my energy. I'm not gonna be able to do anything I want. So I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna find something else to do. My husband and I enjoy going to Star Trek conventions. We also go to Renaissance fairs. I make crafts. So like I make jewelry to go along with my costumes. I make just different, I've got some hats in the background. I just made a witch's broom that's gonna light up because next weekend I'm going to the New York Renaissance Fair. I mean, I'm sorry, the New Jersey. I'm going to the New Jersey Renaissance Fair this weekend coming up. And the first day I'm gonna be dressed as a zebra witch. I've made a lot of the props for the costume. And my husband's gonna be a wizard with me. And then the next day we have like a steampunk kind of outfit going, and I'll most likely be in my wheelchair. Whereas I'm hoping on Saturday I'm going to be able to just use my walker. That's what we were working on at physical therapy, is my ability to walk on uneven ground, because I try to incorporate my mobility devices that I need into my costumes. For a long time, I hid them, or I would put them aside. I wouldn't get them in the picture. And then I recognized that that was ableism, and that I was encouraging other people to think that I had a problem with my mobility aids, which I do not. I do not have a problem with having to use wheelchair or crutches or walker. If you need it, use it, whatever can get you out and get you doing the things that you want. I had a therapist that said something to me that really stuck with me. And going from thinking that you are mentally ill to suddenly know you need to have brain surgery, and you have this lifelong condition, was a difficult adjustment. I had a lot of identity problems. I didn't know who I was anymore. And I saw and I went to therapy, and my therapist suggested that I find what I could from my previous life that I could bring into my present life, that I could embrace. So things like the Renaissance Fair, being creative. I always like to make things, and so even if I can only do it on a small scale, it's still worth doing. And do what you can do what you enjoy. Find whatever is brings you joy, and find a way to do it. I love cooking. I gave up cooking for a while, and then I found a way to modify it, um and so I can continue cooking. So I mean, so that would be my advice, is to find what you can, and focus on that, and not. And I know it's hard you can't help but focus on what's going to happen next. So don't give up right away. Understand that it's going to be hard to change your focus, and just keep trying.
You said something, and Kate in the chat captured it really well, where it's like, just like, don't give in to the fight, right? It's like, for example, I have an issue when people have this whole like warrior language, like, oh,
Hmm.
you're a chronic
Yeah,
pain
right.
warrior. And,
Yes.
it's like, no, when I say those things and when I give in to this idea that I'm always fighting because I'm fighting the healthcare system or I'm fighting for insurance or, whatever, you're telling your nervous system and your brain and your thinking and your mindset every day that this is a struggle.
Hmm.
So then you're like, making yourself a victim, so you have to do like you're doing. You're saying, I'm not going to allow that to define my thinking, and I'm going to, the way I would summarize what you were saying a minute ago about, there's always like something you can do. It's not the just do it, it's the like just do something.
Hmm.
Find a thing that you can do. Move your stomach, try this, do that, go out. It's stop the fight, break up with that kind of language that you tell yourself, and move forward. And that's how, whether it's one baby step at a time, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, you're really embracing that. And,
And
personally, as your friend, I'm so proud of you for all you do. I mean, I can't imagine what a hard couple of years this has been. And I'm so grateful that you have an amazing spouse. And, again, hooray for the amazing spouses out there. I have one. And, you know,
and the community, like, I think you can choose your community, and you can choose to surround yourselves with other people. Like, with the physical therapy that I do, there's kind of like a little group of us that all do this same kind of physical therapy, and we'll often we engage with each other, we check on each other, we see how we're doing. We'll share videos of what exercises we're doing. If we happen to be at the PT facility at the same time, we'll work with each other. And having, that kind of support is amazing, because you don't feel like it's all on you. Like, you have people surrounding you, helping to bring your own spirit up. And it doesn't seem like, oh, I have to do this. If you're doing it with friends, it's kind of like, we make it fun. And we're all a little bit neuro, spicy. So we have the exercises that we're doing are like physical therapy exercises that incorporate neurological exercise, like to try and get our brains and our bodies to work better together. And I love it. It lets me do a lot of stuff that I wouldn't be able to, like go to the Renaissance Fair this weekend. And my plans don't stop there. So I'm going back to the Las Vegas for Star Trek convention in August. I'm going to be camping a couple of times. And then we're going to go back to the New Jersey Star Trek convention, and hopefully I'm going to actually make it through it this time.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I love it. You're setting yourself these, really important goals that are what bring you joy and what you like to do. And you're not letting any of this other stuff sort of like get in the way of that vision. And that's really focusing forward. And, I think it really drives your momentum. Um, I'm so glad that you could join today, and, glad that you got an opportunity to share your story and your passion and advocacy. Um, classical EDS, and, you're an example of like, think the wounds don't heal. I mean, literally, like your skin is tissue paper. And, a lot of people that are hypermobile out there doing party tricks and think this is like some sort of TikTok disease. This is a very real thing, and we're all being, dismissed and disbelieved by our medical team and our loved ones. And it's just really hard. And I'm in complete agreement with you that community, um, and the friendships that you make and the connections and the people that you can say, hey, I'm having a really bad day. I just, can you lift me up. And then you do that same in reverse. I think that the connections that we make are really kind of the cure,
Yeah.
because it's what's going to get you through until we have diagnostic testing that's clear, treatments that are clear, a medical system that understands it's better. It's the community and the connections that are going to get us through. So,
Yeah. And
um,
I don't want to make it seem like, I always like I'm always pushing through or whatever, because like there are so many times when, I have to give up an event or an adventure that I want to go on because of whatever's going on. And that what happens when I have to give up a trip or I have to give up an event or whatever. I mean, that's just life. It happens. We get insurance for things like that when we can, and other times, we just accept it as a loss and move on. It's worth it to me to keep having those goals, because if you don't, have goals, you can really end up in a dark place. And also, feeling like you can't do anything for yourself or accomplish anything for yourself. Like I feel those things too. I've there are plenty of days where I literally just cannot get out of bed. I am too exhausted. I have anemia right now that's absolutely crushing me. So I've set up bird feeders around my house, so like if I'm in bed, I can watch the birds. If I'm in my chair right here, I can watch the birds. So that would be, I guess, my final part. Well, I don't know. We can keep talking. I don't have anywhere to be, but that would be another bit of advice, is I would say, try and surround yourself with beauty and some things that bring you peace. If birds don't bring you peace, do not surround yourself with birds. I happen to like birds. But
yeah,
I mean, there are these window clings that you can put on that make like all these rainbows out of your windows, and I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to make your space a peaceful one, even if you are limited to a bed or a chair.
yeah, yeah. Well, I know we could keep going on and on and on, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and thank you again, Krista, for being here. Thank you for those of us who were able to join us live, and the recording is going to live on. And just like you, it's going to continue to teach people, how to change their mindset and deal with these things. Um, I would say, and I think it's echoed in the chat, as you go forward, be careful, take care of your body. I know you do. Try not to overdo it. The fine art of pacing is a hard lesson for all of us to learn. But I love that you're out there just like YOLO. So
Mhm.
thanks for
Yeah,
being with us today. Thank you,
thank
everybody
you.
who joined. And I really look forward to seeing you in DC.
Yeah, and if anyone has any further questions, they can always find me on Facebook or email me at Krista@rieds.org. If you're in the area, please come to our movie showing of Complicated on June 21st. We would love to have you. It's going to be a really, really great time. And this movie is so important, and I am excited to share it with whoever can make it to that event.
Have any of you seen it yet?
I have seen it.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
able to actually see it while I was in the hospital through the awards thing that
yeah,
was going
yeah.
on in LA.
Slam
So
dance or yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I feel a little bit privileged that I got to kind of see it on my own. I was able to like pause it when I needed to. So I do feel like I kind of got really privileged in that. And then I just saw it in Massachusetts with just a bunch of people with Aurora and everyone. So that was amazing, getting to see it with a group of people, especially people that that I know very well, that are friends of mine. It was and my doctors. It was just a really wonderful experience. So I'm hoping that other people can have that same experience in June.
yeah. We had a showing here And it was a great experience and another opportunity to connect. And we had some providers and patients and
Mhm.
family members come. And I think the film is hopefully going to be a beautiful entryway for the rest of the world to get a glimpse of what Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is like for those of us that are living it. And thank the filmmakers and the producers and all the families that participated to share their stories, because it's sharing your story like you're doing today that's going to help raise awareness and make change. So thank you,
So,
Krista. Oh,
what? Just one last thing, really quick. Last time when we were in DC, I had shared how I had this experience of being diagnosed with mental illness when I had physical illness, and I forget which senator's office it was, but the staff there, they asked, did I think that this was still happening today? And I said, absolutely. And I told them about this movie that was coming out, and I directed them to other resources so that they would know that yes, I mean this is absolutely, it's still happening today. And so the more that I can share that part of my story, the more people that can understand that this is still going on right now. We have kids that are hospitalized in psychiatric units that don't belong there, and children being taken away from their parents. It's horrifying, really. So sorry
yeah.
to interrupt
No,
your.
no. I mean, like I said, we could continue talking about this for a long, long time because there's just so much work that
There
needs to
is,
be done.
yeah.
But continue to push forward and you know do the little things that we can that make a
Mhm.
difference. And a lot of times the things that you're doing, being involved in that film, going to the Hill, have running a support group that's running on itself. I mean, these are ripples that people like you that are advocating not only for themselves, but they're creating a big ripple in the community. So thank you again for being here with us and everybody who joined. And I look really forward to seeing what we can do in DC. It's a really trying time, and
Yeah, it's scary. It's a scary time right now. Yeah.
yeah. So all right, everybody take good care of themselves and do the best you can with all the things that you have. And remember to be grateful for the whether it's the privilege or the doctor that is taking care of you or whatever it is, to remember those good things that are in your life, because it's too easy to dwell on all the darkness.
Mhm.
So all right, everybody,
See you
take
in a few
care.
weeks.
All right, bye.
Bye.